How's it going, guys? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation, and this is an exciting video because there's a new PS5 update out that adds a low power mode, and I bet you can't guess what that's teasing. It's the handheld. Speaking of handhelds, there's a new Xbox handheld from ASUS, the ROG Xbox Ally, and people are like, oh, new Xbox hardware can run PlayStation games, and I'm here to throw water on that fire. And finally, if you're a racing fan, you're going to be really excited to know that Forza Horizon 6 is coming in 2026. Before I jump into it, it would really help me out if you subscribe to the channel and set your notifications to all that YouTube stuff. But let's jump into the first news story here because things are getting interesting in the handheld world. We've got a Steam Deck 2 potentially coming soon. We've got the Switch 2 out now, charging $80 for games. Don't like that. And we've got Xbox and Asus teaming up for a new ROG Ally that's going to have the Xbox full screen experience. Yes, that is the official name for the Xbox handheld. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Sony, on the other hand, is taking their time and working on their own handheld, and it looks like they're getting something ready to really make this thing run well. So this is coming from the classic leaker of hardware. Moore's Law is dead. This dude's track record is like 105%. He kills it whenever he leaks new PlayStation hardware. So if he's reporting it, I fully believe it. And what he's reporting is that both the PS5 and PS5 Pro in the near future are going to get low power modes. So basically what these are is a way for the console to read that you're playing a game like Resident Evil Village, a game that was released on the PS4 and PS5. So like, even though it has a native PS5 version, it's not necessarily running the PS5 at its top spec or anything like that. Basically, the PS5 is working overtime to get this game running as good as possible. And there's enough headroom that they could cut off and draw less power from the wall, save you some money on your electricity bill. So in those scenarios, the PS5 will downclock itself and run at the exact power level that it needs to get the perfect performance out of the game while cutting off that overhead and saving you money. Now that's cool in its own right because saving money on electricity is awesome because, man, power bills have been going up and up and up over the past 5 years. It just absolutely sucks when I get that bill at the end of the month. But the real win here is that this low power mode is very obviously being built to work with the handheld. We know that Sony has two chips in development. There's going to be a console chip and then a handheld chip. They're going to be two variations of the same chip. That handheld chip is obviously going to have to run at a lower spec than the console chip because of things like cooling and of course battery life. Battery life is like the big pain point for all handhelds. Like, you could take right now a Ryzen 9 desktop chip and throw it in a handheld, and there are Chinese manufacturers that do this about 4 to 5 times a year, and yeah, you'll get great performance, but if you want decent battery life, that thing's going to be about 6 inches thick. Or if you put a normal size battery in it, it's basically going to be used 100% of the time plugged into the wall charger. So the way to get around that is to make sure your operating system is only using as much power as it absolutely needs to at any given time and not going overkill and kind of overpowering itself to get the game running as good as it needs to, and then having too much power on the back end available that's not being used. Sony hasn't made a handheld since the PS3 era with the PS Vita, so obviously they haven't been sinking a ton of time or resources into getting this all ready for a brand new handheld, but they clearly see the competition, right? Like, SteamOS is going to be big. It can play basically everything except a few online games. It's growing every day. There's more handhelds that use it now, like the Legion Go S. You can just install SteamOS on your ROG Ally, your Ally X. You'll be able to install it on the Xbox Ally X, which is going to be really funny when people do that. Of course, Xbox is really entering the handheld space with this ROG Ally. It's not really that different. It's going to run Windows still, which is a huge problem because Windows sucks for gaming. They are using about 2 gigabytes less of RAM or memory at any given time because it's running a stripped down version of the operating system. They're still optimizing it too, so it could be better, but they're really working on getting that handheld operating system set up and running, and eventually that will definitely run their home console. So Sony's got to get this right. We've seen this play out multiple times. The PSP launched pretty good. It had some quality games like Tony Hawk's Underground 2. You got stuff like God of War, Ghosts of Sparta, and Chains of Olympus, Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, Peace Walker, Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, Daxter, Killzone Liberation. Like, there were some great games on the PSP, but once that thing was hacked, it kind of stopped selling all that many games because once you bought the PSP, you could just flip that switch on the battery, install custom firmware through Hot Shots Golf, and download any PSP game you wanted. So Sony kind of killed it pretty quickly after that because they weren't making any money. selling the console at a loss and then having no one buy your games. That's a losing formula. And then with the Vita, even though it was a great handheld with an OLED screen, which was crazy ahead of its time, it was fairly priced at $250, which seemed expensive at the time, but now the Switch 2 is $450. So I'd love to get a $250 handheld in my hands these days. They kind of screwed it up by putting like no storage on the handheld and making you pay a lot of money for proprietary memory cards for like 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, 16 and 32. Like you could not get a high capacity memory card for that thing to save your life. And there were adapters eventually that allowed you to use micro SD cards, but you had to have custom firmware or weird stuff flashed to the handheld, so it didn't really work all that well. And people were just past playing native handheld games at that point. Like the 3DS did fine once they dropped it to $150, but like it never really recovered from its painful launch. So now is the time for Sony to really nail this. Obviously they know what not to do based on the past performances, like don't make your thing easily hackable, which would be nice if it was, but like if you want this thing to succeed, don't make it easily hackable, don't have proprietary memory, don't charge out the ass for it at launch, and make sure it plays every PS5 game and PS4 game on the market at launch. You've got a pretty good thing set up, because now the difference is these things are using the same games as the home console. So like if you own a game digitally, which most people do these days, you can just download it, get your save, get your trophies, and be good to go. That makes these things a great utility. And if you want proof of that, look at the Steam Deck. People buy that in addition to their PC. Look at the PS Portal. It streams games, which is the worst way to play games, but people love buying it because it's only $200 and you can play your PS5 games on a handheld. So it's very clear that they are working on a handheld, and I like that they're using the consoles that are already available to kind of get it ready. I hope this low power mode does not result in worse performance out of the gate, because that would be not worth it, and I don't want the PS5 to work as a beta test for a handheld if it's going to make the PS5 perform worse. But they got Mark Cerny on board. I don't think he'd let that happen, and this is just like, it's all really exciting. Xbox is not really the competition all that much because their handheld is made by Asus, and it's going to be very expensive because Asus does not own the Xbox storefront, so they can't subsidize the handheld, and Microsoft charges for a Windows license on the handheld, which is why the Legion Go S that runs Windows is more expensive than the one that runs SteamOS. And even if they put some deals in place, there's no way they'll be able to subsidize it enough to keep it below $700. So like that thing's going to be crazy. But yeah, speaking of Xbox's handheld, I've seen a lot of news going around that says Xbox's new handheld is going to run Sony games. And I mean, these people are shameless, man. Like I just talked about how this is not really an Xbox handheld. It's Asus making a handheld with an Xbox button that runs Windows. So like if you really want to look at it from a top level, it's a Windows handheld that has an Xbox button. So it's not really an Xbox. But like the other part of this is there's already a bunch of Windows 11 handhelds. There's the ROG Ally original version. There's the Ally X. There's the Legion Go. There's the Legion Go S. All of those can play Sony games currently, and they all market themselves with the Xbox app. So like, it's really not that different at all. I think the situation would be completely different if Microsoft was the one making this handheld from the ground up and selling it at a subsidized cost so that, you know, people can actually get it in their hands. And at that point, if that were the case, I would fully expect Sony to block that specific hardware configuration from accessing Sony games on Steam. Like they would just do that, and I think they'd be completely justified to do so. I don't like the trickery that's going on in the industry where, you know, they're like coming up with all these like, well, Microsoft's running Windows games on their Xbox platform, and these Windows games are from Sony. So like technically first party Sony games are on Xbox. It's like, that is so well past the stuff that I really want to argue with people about, because it's just dumb at the end of the day. But like, you're just going to see news stories like this popping up more and more, because I guarantee you that this is not the only Xbox handheld in development, right? Like Lenovo, they have the Legion Go that runs Windows. They now have the Legion Go S that runs Windows. They're also partnering up with Steam to do the SteamOS version of the handheld. There's going to be a million of these things. They come out every year. They're not really anywhere close to the level of what you would see numbers wise out of something released by Sony or Nintendo. Like, I love the Steam Deck. I'm ride or die for the Steam Deck, but Nintendo managed to outsell the Steam Deck in one weekend with the Switch 2. So like, they're all in completely different ballparks. So yeah, like for all intents and purposes, I guess you could say say that this Xbox handheld is technically running Sony first party games and they can't do anything about it. We'll see what happens if Xbox actually gets around to making their own handheld, because that's when I think this is really going to get interesting and start heating up. So right now, I don't think we have anything to worry about. And even if it is the case that you're playing Sony games on the Xbox handheld, like, congrats, you waited over a year to get them while we're all playing Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yotei. You're on God of War Ragnarok, which came out like 3 years ago at this point. Like, it's not even funny. It's just dumb. And if I really wanted to dig the knife even deeper, I might say how many PlayStation logos were in that Xbox showcase. I think a lot of them were. It's got to sting pretty bad to ride or die for a console for 3 generations, 4 generations? Because you got the Xbox, the 360, the Xbox One, and the Series X, and then you get to watch a showcase from your fandom where they've got the competing hardware's logo in it. That's got to sting. So yeah, I mean, it sucks to see Xbox finding backhanded ways to get Sony games on their platform, but like, Sony and Nintendo dug a pretty damn deep grave when it comes to the console ecosystem. I mean, Microsoft's going to compete with Valve now. They're bowing out. And you know, speaking of Xbox games coming to PS5, that brings me to the third story, which is about Forza Horizon 6. So I was fully expecting this to be announced at the Xbox showcase. It's been a few years. It's never been this long between Forza Horizon games. You know, they were on like a 2 or 3 year cadence, but because Playground Games got the money to make Fable, which I could not care less about. Like, I liked Fable when I was a kid. I think I really outgrew it as a franchise after the first game. I think Fable 2 was fine and Fable 3 sucked. That weird action roguelite they made was not fun at all. I don't need Fable back. I'm fine with some franchises just going away, but Playground Games split their team into 2 studios, and now we gotta wait longer for Forza Horizon 6. But Phil Spencer announced that we will see it next year. That's great. It should be a quick turnaround after the June event. I hope because we're waiting an extra year, we get it a lot quicker than fall of 2026. But I just wanted to tell you some of the rumors about Forza Horizon 6, because now this is a PlayStation game for all intents and purposes. So the big rumor is that it's going to take place in Japan. We kind of have a similar trajectory to Assassin's Creed fans when it comes to being a Forza Horizon fan. Ever since the very beginning, the one place that's been requested for a game to show up in has been Japan, because, you know, people are big fans of Japanese cars now because they're really the only manufacturers that make reliable sports cars that you can actually afford anymore, and their cars just look really cool, and the diversity of the biome of Japan is excellent, and it would be a Forza Horizon game that's finally centered on drifting. So there's a lot of different reasons that Forza Horizon fans like myself have been requesting Japan, and they're kind of feeding the flames over at Playground Games. Like, when they wrapped up support for Forza Horizon 5, the last few car packs were like JDM Legends, so like Japanese Driftmaster Legends, so like a lot of Japanese cars that were requested were added to the game. A lot of the fan-made tracks in the game that they've been featuring are Japanese-centric, drift-centric, so like they're clearly teasing it. I was like fully invested in them doing Japan until I saw an Instagram reel where a guy was talking about where he wanted it to be set, and he dropped Texas. Can you imagine how awesome a Texas set Forza Horizon game would be? I mean, you could do Dallas, you could do Houston, you could do the big open highways in between the cities. The biodiversity would be a little bit of a problem because Texas is mostly desert, but they could get around that. There's definitely spots of Texas that have green grass they could add into the game. I don't know why Microsoft would do that when they're literally at their peak. Forza Horizon 5 is not my favorite Forza Horizon. 4 or 1 are if I had to really pick, but they're all pretty good. But Forza Horizon 5 is the one that won Game of the Year awards. Forza Horizon 5 is the one with tens of millions of players. That's the franchise's peak. That's the last time when you want to make a final entry in a series. Like, I get that Playground Games is probably bored of it, but like, so what? Keep making the game, man. Like, it's that good. People really want it from you. I think Fable is fine, but like, if you gave me the choice between Fable or Forza Horizon, I'm picking Forza Horizon any day of the week. That's just me. But yeah, that's the update on Forza Horizon 6. Thanks to the 5 or 10 of you who stuck around to watch it. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.